Okay, welcome ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. My name is Skaggy Bones, I'm your host. For this cycling video, it's going to be a little do-it-yourself quick tips and help video. Went out on a mountain bike ride today. Rained quite a bit, got quite a bit muddy. And the mountain bike was kind of not shifting the way I wanted it to. In the rear derailleur, front derailleur were fine. Not really kind of, and by the way, front derailleur's real easy. The cable movement is quite pronounced, so even normally when you get a little bit of cable stretch, it still doesn't matter. You're still going to shift fine in the front. It's normally not a problem. Big problem is in the rear. When you're talking about your 9, 10, 11, and now they're going to these 12 gear one-by systems. The gears are so close together, the gears are so thin that the shifting gets kind of really tricky. So it's a little bit tougher to keep working properly. So went to the store, picked up a couple things. I needed an extra 11-speed chain for the road bike. I always like to keep a spare, so I got one of those. I got a couple 9-speed chains up there from road bikes. And one thing, so you know, when you buy a 9-speed chain, it will work, especially SRAMs. They typically work for both road and mountain bike, okay? Because the gearing, that's why you can use a mountain bike cassette on a road bike with the same. If you have like an 11-speed mount cassette or a 10-speed mount cassette, you can use it with a 10-speed road front mech and road crank set. So that doesn't matter. That's also why you can use mountain bike cranks with road cassettes, vice versa. It does work. Okay. So picked up some more White Lightning. I still got the large bottle, but I'm halfway empty on this guy. So I want some more of this. They did have the wet lube, but I prefer not to get the. They had the wet lube in the large bottles and the white. But I don't really like the white that much, and in Guam, it's just a little bit better for wet weather. Okay, the wet lube is the best for wet weather, but sorry, itchy nose, kind of a nasty day out. But this tends to be just the best all around, and I like to keep an all-around lube. So got a little bit more of that. You didn't have the large bottles at the shop I go to. So I got a new 11-speed chain. These run about $38 for SRAMs. They're pretty good. I wear through them a decent amount, and if you keep them lubricated, they won't rust. You can get high-end grades, titanium, all kinds of crazy materials, and they're just going to wear just as much. So you're never gonna. It's never going to find a foolproof chain system unless you get a titanium chain set and a titanium cassette, and then sometimes you're paying more for your cassette and your chain than you are for the rest of the bike and the rest of the group set. So recommend just going with something like this with the SRAM. Just keep it clean all the time. You won't have a problem. And secondly, got another 9-speed. Like I said, got a couple up there, but I want to get another 9-speed for the mountain bike. So putting those back up into my parts. So one of the things we're going to do for today. So first of all, one of the things, and I told you guys about that I want to do, if you notice, this back cable here is a little long for the way this rear mech works. So the rear mech sits up like this, and like so. And so this points out, and it kind of, instead of going up like that. So we're going to shorten this a little bit. We're going to cut this down, the cable down, shorten this outer cable a little bit, and make this look a little bit better, as well as kind of cleaning this up a little bit. So I wanted to make sure we got this all adjusted properly and clean, and get a lot of the extra gunk out of here. So it's been a while since we got this, that I've cleaned it up. the rear mech. Rear mechs tend to take a lot of abuse and they get really dirty, so I want to kind of fiddle with that a little bit. So first thing I want to do is, while we have the rear mech off, I'm going to take our nice Park Tool DAG 2.2. So DAG stands for Derailleur Hanger Alignment Gauge. DAG, Derailleur Alignment Gauge. So we're going to take our Park Tool alignment gauge, and we're going to take our protective cap off. Now remember, you have to take the mech off, the mech hanger, the rear mech off the mech hanger, so that it's like this. In mountain bikes, your rear mech is going to have this extension piece on here, and you don't take, normally on a road bike you take it off from this bolt here, you take it off from this bolt here, which is the same, it's going to be a 5mm, and you take it off from that bolt, you leave this bolt on, this piece needs to be on there for the larger cassettes anyways, and then you're going to go directly into this portion here. I knocked this out of the way a little bit. Oops. Get this down to the bottom. You want to screw this in. If the threads don't go in, make sure you get a little bit of grease on there. Okay. And then we're going to kind of move this up to here. And I always take I kind of always take a starting measurement, and you want it to be even all on the wheel, wherever it may be. So what I do is I take, and you have these two O-rings on this bar here, this measure bar. Okay, so where people get confused is they're like, well, I'm going to put this O-ring over here, down here. Okay, the problem is then when you come here, you can't move this out of the way. So what you want to do is, if I take this outer O-ring and move it off, like so, okay, I can okay, if I move this outer O-ring out of the way, then this will push in pretty far. I mean, it's only going to push in as far as the wheel's concerned. But what I do is I use that kind of, I want to be able to move this bar back and forth. So if you can see here, let's zoom in here. Sorry, wrong way. So you can see this is your measurement bar, and I set the O-ring to touch this part here, okay, right here, because this, you're going to move this up and down as you go around the wheel, because there's going to be different lengths from this. It's not dead center, right? So you're going to move, you're going to go from, you got different lengths, so I'm going to have to move this up and down. The thing is, I'm going to also have to move this in and out. So what I want to do is mark from this first spot, normally down at the bottom, I want to mark where this is aligned to and see. I want to take a couple of points. I want to take from the bottom, from the top, from here, and from here, okay? So I slide this guy out and I go all the way to the back, okay? I'm going to slide this back a little bit, and I'm a little bit off there. Okay, now I'm going to also go up here to the top. I'm going to push that there. And I notice I'm also off up there. Okay, so my alignment here, whatever my alignment is here, I'm going to have to twist it out a little bit. Zip back out. So my alignment, because my alignment up here, if I come up here, when I put it to the O-ring, exactly where it was at here, I got probably about 5 to 6 millimeters of difference, where I can go in about 5 or 6 millimeters. Okay, and then okay. One other thing you can try as well, because you just to make sure that your wheel is not your wheel being bent or anything like that. So you can come in like this. You can place this here, let it sit down. Put this right around the bottom. And spin your wheel. And other than the place where you have your graphic, where there's going to be a little bit of a raise, and while holding this in, the wheel should just barely touch that there, okay, without pushing it in or out. If it pushes it out this way, it means that maybe your wheel's out of alignment, and that can be a problem, but it shouldn't be 5 millimeters out of alignment. That's a pretty big alignment issue. And you could look at your wheel and tell that. So by looking at the wheel, we can tell that's not the case. One other thing too, you want to make sure that the wheel is in all the way. If the wheel's not in all the way, it is going to throw off. It's not going to throw off your shifting. Well, it can throw off your shifting because your cassette will be out of whack this way or that way. Okay, so if your wheel isn't in perfectly straight, your shifting will be out of whack, and because it'll throw the alignment out. Okay, so when I come up here, I can throw that out. Now, mainly, your wheel being out of alignment, most of the time the alignment is like this. Okay, it's kind of curves this way a little bit. So in order to check that, you kind of come over to here, and you go, how far out of whack is there compared to back here. And it looks like the bar here, the adjustment bar, is actually, or the alignment bar is closer here than it is there. So it means I'm going to have to twist this a little bit this way, like so. And then I'm going to take the gauge here, remove this. And like I said, it doesn't have to be 100% perfect. You're not looking for okay, so I had to push it this way a little bit, and then I had to push it back just a little bit because I went too far. So right there, that's looking good right there. And I don't want to push the bar one way or the other. I just want to kind of hold it. I can have a millimeter off or so, that's not a big deal. Now I'm going to go to the back, remeasure the back again. And that looks pretty good. Okay, so now to get the up and down measurement, okay, so once again I'm going to kind of come here like this, and I'm going to take my measurement again from here, like so. And I'm going to, if you remember, I said I need to pull out a little bit from the bottom. So I kind of hold my wheel. pull out just a little bit. I'm going to kind of readjust this now. It's kind of bent just a little bit. I've just done a little bit of bending there. Okay, come push this up, come over like so. Okay, and I'm a little too far, so I'm going to pull, or not far enough I should say, so I'm going to check the alignment again. Pull this out. Marked. Up to here. Nope, and I still really haven't moved it. So, once again, okay, so there. Looks like we're pretty close to having moved that a little bit. Come back down here once again. Check our alignment. And I did a little too far. It's okay. Bam, that's perfect there. Come up here once again. Not far enough. Like I said, this is hard to get 100% perfect. You kind of have to understand what's good enough. Now that there is within a millimeter. So right now I got it within 1 millimeter and I'm pretty good. So I'm going to leave this alignment alone for now. And I'm going to unscrew my gauge. I'm going to put the thread saver back on because the last thing I want to do is damage the threads, the alignment gauge. So this guy doesn't go rolling. I'm going to tighten the alignment bar down. Okay, now the other thing that we want to do is we want to, while I have this off, I'm going to clean the cassette off a little bit. And then we're going to adjust this. So the next thing we want to do is, after we've cleaned our cassette off and gotten everything good to go, we're going to put this back on, but I'm going to start by cutting out the cable, and then we're going to shorten it up. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is I want to come here. We got 5 millimeter for the pinch bolt for right here, and I'm going to loosen this up a little bit. Okay. And that's going to loosen our cable here, and the big thing we want to do is we want to cut it at the crimp. I don't want to cut it any farther than that right now because I don't know how far I'm going to shorten this. So cut that off like that. Use a good pair of cutters. Cut that off like so. In fact, we'll definitely need to cut it beyond where the pinch was before because it's not going to go through the cage otherwise. So we cut that off. As you can see, we made a pretty smooth cut. Our cable still needs to go through like this, but instead of being all poking out like this, I want it super short like this. I only need about this much cable length here. Okay, so one of the things I want to do then Okay, so if you notice on this, if I screw this way, this comes out all the way, okay? And I don't want this to necessarily come out. I just want to kind of show you what it looks like. You got a spring in there. We got water in there. That's why I kind of want to clean that out a little bit. Like so. Okay, so we want to set this up like that. And then the next thing we want to do is we want to get our Allen wrench. And we're going to take this cable, kind of move it out of the way. And we're going to take and put our rear cassette back on. Now you notice on here, on your rear cassette, you have this, and I did this in the build video. You got this little notch here on this extension piece. If you notice the B tension screw, is back here, and it only touches this bar here, okay? So oh, one thing too we want to do, make sure you have grease that you put on here. Grab a little bit of our grease, part tool grease. Always grease these mechs, screws. You don't need a super amount of grease. Just enough kind of to get this on there. Like so. Then you want to get it started. Get this thread started. Don't worry about so much the okay. Okay, so now I'm going to get my smaller screwdriver, or sorry, my adjustment screwdriver, my alignment screwdriver off, now that I have the rear mech on. And I use approximately this size of a screwdriver for these screws. I'm going to bring this all the way in, as far as it will go. Try another screwdriver here real quick. That one I've kind of worn out a little bit. Don't like that one. If one of your screwdrivers doesn't work, it doesn't seem to fit in there, instead of trying to use something that really doesn't work, if you have to, flathead. So they give you the option on these. You can technically use a flathead. So use one that fits in there perfectly. Okay. I set my high and low limit screws. At this point, in time, just to make sure. The other thing I'm going to set is I'm going to push, and you can do all your mech adjustment without a chain or a cable on there. So I'm going to push the mech up all the way, and I'm going to kind of adjust my B tension already. So I'm going to push this here. I'm going to adjust my B tension to there. Okay. I've pushed my B tension in. What that does is when this is all the way out, it stops that, like so. Okay? So that's what I've done there. We've adjusted that. The next thing we want to do is, like I said, remember I said I just want a shorter cable. So I'm going to take this guy off, and we're going to take this end cap off here, like so. Okay. Push this back through. The reason I took that off is I don't want to go messing with the like that. And we're going to cut off approximately, so this made it stick out. So if I come down about roughly here, I'll start off by cutting off about 1 inch of cable. So I'm going to grab my cutters. I'm going to come right to here. And we said we're going to cut off about roughly 1 inch. Okay, so right there. If I cut off too much, then I'm stuck with no outer cable. An outer cable that's not going to work properly. So I'm going to start by cutting off that 1 inch. I pick up my little bits of cable and stuff. The last thing I want to do is step on these things and puncture something through my foot. When I come in, I have it all like so, and I make sure the inner cable housing's opened up by taking the cable like so, pushing that in like that. Okay. Now we're going to put the cable back through the cable housing like this. One other thing too is if you're worried, let me show you something here. If you're worried that your cables have gotten rusted at the end, you can freshen them up simply by taking a tiny bit off like so, just a tiny bit. Just like that. That freshens up the cable just a little bit. Or I should say the outer cable. And then you can kind of do that. Okay. And then push this through like this. Now without putting this ferrule in, I'm going to test this. So I'm going to take the this on. I think we got the right length now. Push the cable through like this. As you can see, the cable now, it pushes away a little bit from the end of the bike, but not so much. So it's not looped out really far. We could cut probably a little bit more off, but it's still going to always kind of bow out just a little bit. Probably make it a little bit more straight, but then again, at that point in time, you risk okay, so then we want a cable in. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to kind of take my gloves off. I'm done kind of working with the greasy part for now. We're going to use our cable cutters because they have crimpers on them. We're going to grab one of these crimp ends. I'm going to come and I'm going to put this on the cable first. I'll slip that on like so. I know it's kind of hard to see. Roll the cable end up as best as possible. Push it in there. Like so. just gonna flatten that on there. So turning down on this guy tightens the cable up. So I want to turn all the way clockwise. Up towards like this. That loosens the cable. And one thing you want to make sure you've done make sure you don't have the cable tightened all the way. Okay. And you're going to take your Allen wrench and clamp down the bolt like that. Okay. Now that we've done that, I'm going to slap my gloves back on. I'm going to clean a couple things and then we'll be right back with you.